Hey everyone, I'm Will from WHCreations, and today I'm taking a closer look at the brand new hooked on wood router sled from Banggood. Let's crack open the box and see what's inside. We've got a handy bag with Allen keys and spare parts, 3 different sizes for various adjustments on the sled. There's also a clear acrylic piece that serves a dual purpose. Next up we have 2 thin MDF pieces, perfect for extending the sled's reach and getting in closer to your router bit or saw blade. You'll also find 2 hold down clamps with sturdy metal shafts, and of course the main attraction, the solid aluminium sled itself. Before attaching the clamps to the sled, you will need to slide those metal shafts through them first. The mitre bar at the back can be easily removed when not needed, and the sled also features 2 glide strips for smooth movement across your work table. Using the Allen keys you can completely remove the mitre bar or adjust it using the 3 available positions. There's also a split washer that allows you to fine tune the fit within your table's T-slot. The acrylic guide attaches easily with the 2 indents facing down. These slot over the bars and then you can secure it in place using the thumb screws and plastic washer. The clamps are quite versatile. They can be positioned in any of the holes on the underside of the sled that have a recess for the screw. First, let's set up my router fence. I made a custom fence specifically for my MFT table and clamps. Now with the fence in place, I can attach the MDF sheet to the sled using the included screws and run it through the router to create a reference edge. Next, I'll use the setup blocks to adjust the router bit to the desired depth for my project. Remember, using a sacrificial piece behind your workpiece helps prevent tear out during routing. Now, let's get routing. Here's where I encountered a minor issue. Due to my router table's specific setup, one of the strips at the back of the sled wasn't quite fitting on the table, causing a slight imbalance. Now, I had no idea this was happening and wasn't noticeable during use, but it did massively affect the cut's cleanliness. So I'm sure you obviously gathered that I wasn't having much luck with this router sled. Using this plastic piece against the fence just wasn't working for me. The clamps I found just weren't holding the piece down strong enough, and there were times the bit was just sort of pushing my workpiece out of place. So I was never actually going to be getting either a square or 45-degree cut. So before I binned this router sled, I wanted to see whether putting a groove in my worktop so the slider can go into it would work any better. And ultimately it did. I found that I had a lot more control and it felt a lot nicer to put through the router bit. But there still are some issues and just things I don't like about this router sled. Firstly, the clamps, moving these around are a pain in the bum, especially when you put your workpiece down and then find that you're not getting the clamp exactly where you need it. Now, as I've shown you, there are multiple placements across this router sled so you can move them around, but doing this each and every time is a bit tiresome. What I would like to see is something like a dovetail slot so you can slide the clamps in and maneuver them around exactly where you want them, and then when you clamp it down, being a dovetail, it is just going to lock it in nice and tight. I've also found that this sled is more ideal to sort of the smaller work, so something around 50mm width maximum really, especially if you're going to be cutting it at the 45 degrees. The location pins for the 45 degrees is just too narrow, it's too close to each other, so being able to put wider stock in just isn't going to work. Now, you can't do this on a sled this size. If you want to increase that gap, you're going to have to make the sled actually wider. But then you're getting into the realms of having a sled quite big, and that's actually defeating the object of having a compact sled such as this. So I would only suggest that this sled be used for smaller pieces up to around 50mm or 2 inch in size. Now that's a perfect size if you want to make picture frames, but if you want to do anything larger, this sled just isn't really for you. But this sled isn't just for your router table, you can use it on your table saw as well. The slider will fit any 19mm groove, and you do have the split washers on the back, so you can really hone in a perfect fit. Now, I quite liked it on the table saw. Obviously, we don't really have much need for something like this on our table saw, which is a sliding panel saw, because it does have a really good 90-degree fence that we can put down work and then cross cut nice and quickly. Now, the clamps on this are rated to have a very good hold down capacity, but I just didn't find that. I found them very cumbersome to move them around the sled, and ultimately my workpiece slipped while I was putting it through the router, and that for me is just a massive no-no. If I'm trying to do fine furniture or anything where I need exact cuts, if the workpiece moves, if I'm putting it through the router table or the table saw, I cannot rely on this sled to give me precise cuts. So would I buy one of these router sleds? Probably not. Actually, no, I wouldn't. Purely because if I wanted a router sled, I'd make one out of MDF and use dovetail slots along with this type of clamp, which have like the dovetail piece at the top. And that will enable me to clamp down my workpieces securely each and every time. And I just can't rely on this router sled to give me the same clamping reliability. Now, that's not to say that this design is a bad one. I think for some people, if you have a small workshop or you tend to work with smaller pieces, I think this product will actually do you very well. Now, I hope you found this video useful, and if you have, please give it a like, and if you're feeling very generous, why not give me a subscribe as well. Until the next time, I'll see you again soon.